Hi everybody. Today we are going to be doing a meal that was suggested by one of the members, Kimberly Goldman, who said, was looking at the chicken that was stuffed with the cream spinach. And she was like, oh, what about a pork tenderloin stuffed with apples and cinnamon and things like that? Well, I thought about it and I tried to figure out a way to make it so that we could eat it. Using some monk fruit, and I used some Granny Smith apples, which is something I used when I was juicing way back, and used some spices like cinnamon, allspice, and some ground nutmeg, or just different things. So I came up with something, and I'm still going to add just a little bit of other ingredients to make it so it's not only sweet but savory. And we're going to get to that right now. So first thing I'm going to do is show you what I did earlier today, which was prep the apples. I got 2 Granny Smith apples that I'm going to be using today. I was going to peel them, but then I decided, you know what, I'm just going to leave the skin on. It's more nutrients, and it's really not going to matter because the way we cook these are going to be mushed down. I take it right down to the core. That's kind of a crap piece there, but no big skill needed here. We're just taking the apples and we're going to take 2 of them and we're going to cut them down. So once you have all the apples sliced up, you take some of the larger pieces like this one, and we're just going to cut it right in half. And as you can see, it's not that hard. It's a beautiful apple, and we're going to do this for the remainder, like that one there. And we're going to get them ready for the pan that's on the stove. I actually have some water boiling on the stove right now with in a large saucepan with a lid. So let me just finish cutting these up and we'll get to that. Here I've got one of my newer saucepans that I got for Christmas with a little bit of water in it, just kind of sitting there on high heat, and it's boiling away. So to this, I'm going to add the apples that we sliced, and eventually I'm going to put the lid back on, and we're just going to steam these. Right to start with, I'm going to kind of give them a little bit of a coat, and then I'm going to let it steam for 2 minutes, and that's with the cover on over high heat. So let me steam that thing down and we'll get to it. Well, it's been steaming for about 2 minutes, and I'm going to use some organic ground cinnamon that I'm just going to kind of sprinkle over the top of these. So let's see, I'm going to use a 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon, and I'm just going to spritz that around. Eventually we're going to use a whole 1/2 teaspoon, but I'm just going to go with a 1/4 right now. And we're also going to throw in about a 1/4 teaspoon of ground cloves. Kind of move around this side so you can see. It just smells amazing at this point. I mean, it's really wonderful. So I'm going to get some allspice here, and I'm just going to take about a 1/4 teaspoon of that, and maybe a little bit less. I'm just going to do a little bit of palmful and kind of throw that in there. Wow, it's already, the aroma is incredible, just with these apples and with that spice. And last but not least, I'm going to use ground nutmeg. I'm only going to use a little spritz of that because it's strong, and a little bit goes a long way. So now that I have the spices in there, I'm going to just kind of flip it around and try to coat the apples evenly. And it's watery right now, but it is going to settle down. Those tomato or the apples are going to absorb that water, and the water is going to thicken up. And now we're going to go with another 1/4 teaspoon of that organic ground cinnamon. And you can adjust this however you like it. I mean, you can be tasting it as you go along. But right now we're going to mix this up again a little bit, and then we're going to cover it And I'm going to let it sit for about 2 minutes, and I'm going to lower the heat down as well, probably to a lower simmer, and just let the apple steam. All right, it's been about 2 minutes, and as you can see, it's starting to thicken up a little bit. We're going to coat these. I want them to still have a little bit of a tenderness to them, but I don't want them complete mush where they're going to fall apart. I want them to have a little bit of firmness. So you saw how that kind of bent like a rubber band almost. But I want them tender, and I want them to absorb all this. So I'm just going to kind of mix it around. I'm going to cover it up again, and I'm going to let it sit for about another minute or two on the burner. And then I'm going to pick it up and I'm going to bring it outside. It's a nice 35, 40 degree night. Try a little bit of this just for flavor. This is where you can adjust your spices. And it seems pretty good. And I like the tenderness of it. So we're going to get this out to the porch, and I'm going to put it on the deck, and I'm just going to let it sit out there and cool down, and let all these apples just kind of absorb all that juice. What I did after the apples were all done cooking is I brought them outside. It's nice and cold out. I put them out on the deck and let them cool down, and they just sat there in that thickened sauce and just absorbed up all the rest of that water with the cinnamon and spice goodness. So I have that nice and cool, fresh off the deck, and we're going to use that to line the inside of the pork. But first we got to prep the pork, and I did some of that earlier today as well, and then put it in the fridge. So here's what I did to prep. The pork tenderloin that I got came as a 2-pack. So this one here that I'm putting in the bowl is a tenderloin that I'm prepping for tomorrow or the next day. I'm going to make some medallions with a creamy mustard sauce. But for tonight, our pork tenderloin, the roast, is we're just going to cut some of that silver out of there. That's going to be just add a lot of toughness to the pork. And you've seen me trim a pork before, and it's just pretty much getting a lot of the excess fat and some of the silver skin off of it. Now once I've finished trimming this, it's going to be time to open it up. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to slice it right down the middle here. I'm not going all the way through. It's going to be opening it up like a book. And as I'm pulling the sides open, I'm just going to make little slices just to make it a little more ease in opening it up. So I'm just trying to distribute the meat and get it as wide as I can before I start tenderizing it or prepping it further. But right now I just want to get it about this size right here. It's about as open as you're going to get a pork tenderloin. And it's not quite mealtime, so I'm just going to finish trimming up any little extras, and I'm going to put this in the fridge. So now that it's cut open and it's kind of flattened out as much as it's going to get on your own with a knife, we're now going to cover it up with some saran wrap. And it's going to be time to beat the meat. Try it. I'm going to have to. Just want to cover this up as much as I can on the cutting board. And if you don't have one of these, you don't use it that often, but the meat mallet works out pretty well. We're not going to use obviously the textured side. We're going to use the flat side, and I'm just going to pretty much start working from the center out, and I just want to give myself enough room to lay some of that apple down so that I can roll it. So because it's pretty much just a round loin like this, you got to open it up and spread it. So we keep on beating. Well, you get the idea. I wonder how many calories am I burning to do this, because I got to put this in my bariatric fitness tracker. So I'll come back when it's all beaten out. So anyway, we sufficiently have it flattened out here. I'll peel that paper back. And after tasting one of these apples, it has a nice flavor, but I'm going to take just a little bit more monk fruit. I'm just going to kind of season the inside of this meat a little bit. If you don't have monk fruit, I've also used that sugar substitute swerve. It seems to be pretty good. Now, to that, we have these beauties here. And as I said, they've soaked up all that goodness, and they're looking absolutely wonderful. So I'm going to take them right out of the pan, and I'm going to start laying them out on top of the pork. They have a little bit of a sandy, gritty feel to them from having all the spices on it, just kind of floating around. And I don't want to stuff this too much, because too much stuffing isn't always a good thing. Now, the other things you can do with the apples, the ones I don't have put aside that I haven't touched with my pork hands, is you can chop that up later on and you can mix it in with your low-fat yogurt, and you can have that for breakfast. I mean, that's a good thing. You got the soft apples and you've got the yogurt, and I mean, the two of them should go together famously. So that's something to do with the leftovers. But let me wash up, and then I'm going to add something else to the pork. All right, folks, like I said, I have the sweetness there, but to add to the savory, I don't know if you've ever used this before, but I love it. It's Cabot Farmhouse Reserve. It's a really nice cheddar. So I'm just going to slice up a little bit of this cheddar. Just kind of thin. I love it. If you haven't tried it, it's off the chain. And we're just going to put that beautiful cheddar right down in a line on top of those apples. Two more pieces. Now, because all of you like the air fryer, I don't know if I can do this in the air fryer, because I'm looking, and here's the air fryer basket. Pork's this big, basket's tiny, but I still want to do it in the air fryer. So I'm going to try to do this anyway in the air fryer just for you. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to cut it in half, and I'm going to try to make two rolled pieces. So let's do that. Like I've said, I've never done this or made this before anyway, so this is all uncharted territory. It's all good. I'm thinking it's about halfway. So let's cut that in half. And what I'm going to do with this half over here is I have my skewers. So this is the hardest part. Rolling this up is really a pain. So it always is. So I'm just going to try to fold it over and then pull it towards me a little bit. And just keep rolling it. And rolling it. Until we get to a part where everything's pretty much closed up in there. I'm going to do the big old suture method with the meat. So again, we're just going to try to pull it forward, using all your fingers to wrap this up. And then I'm going to get my skewer. I'm going to try to go in and out here. So I kind of closed up the end here a little bit. There we go. And it's all closed up. So before I was rudely interrupted by a dead battery, I just wanted to let you know that I have seasoned the pork, and we rolled it up and we've seasoned it with some smoked paprika, some ground rosemary, some garlic powder, and just a little pinch of sage. Basically what we have to do now is we have to insert the probe, which we always do, because I'm going to stick this in the air fryer, and I'm not going to sit there and worry about it. I'm not going to watch it. I'm not going to be opening it. I'm not going to be testing it. I don't want to open that thing until it's done. So I've got the probe in. I'm going to start it at 400 degrees, and I am just going to set it for 30 minutes. And if it needs longer, it needs longer, but it's going in right now, 400 degrees for 30 minutes. And at the end, maybe I'll be able to tell you exactly how long it took, because each air fryer is just so different. So we have everything done here. It's looking beautiful in the air fryer. And we're going to insert our probe into the deepest part. Actually, you know what? I'm thinking if I go in through here, that actually might be the deepest part right in there. Okay, so let's get this in the air fryer. One of the other ways I was thinking about doing it lower carb was some people like to use that chio fruit or the vegetable, and you get it at the store and they chop it up and they dice it and they add cinnamon and sugar and other things to it to make it almost seem, the veggies seem like an apple. And the reason I didn't go that direction is because the Granny Smith is good enough as it is. It's got its own natural sweetness, which makes it extra good, and you don't have to add as much sugar. If you were using that vegetable, you'd be dumping like half a cup of sugar substitute. So I tried to go as low as we could, and I think we're going to be fine, because we're going to be doing portion control anyway. We're only going to be doing how many ounces that we're allowed to have, and I'm going to serve it with a side of green beans. So anyway, it's in the air fryer. It's been in there for about a minute or two, and I'm just going to clean up, and then I'm going to relax and take it easy. And when that timer goes off, we'll come back and we'll take a look at what we got. Well, the pork is done. It took 20 minutes at 400 degrees for it to reach an internal temp of about 158. And then I shut the fryer off at that 20-minute mark, and it slowly climbed up to almost like 170. So because it's rolled up, I don't think it's going to be dry. I just really want it to be cooked through all the way. So let me get it out of the air fryer and we'll see what we got. Well, here we go in all its goodness. So that's as it sits in the air fryer. And I'm going to pull it out and I'm going to cut it open. Let's take a look. Crunchy on the outside. Ooh. Got the apples wrapped up in there. And the cheese is melted. And it's still very tender. Both sides. Oh, let me grab the green beans and we're going to plate up a portion that I can have, my dinner size portion. On such a little plate, this is going to look huge. Anyway, I have 6 ounces of that wonderful apple stuffed pork tenderloin with cinnamon. And I allowed myself this little extra portion. And to that, I'm going to add a few green beans. I'll put a little bit of Parm cheese on top of that. And just to put on top of this, a little bit of the dripping from the pan. And there you have the apple cinnamon stuffed with cheddar cheese, air fried pork tenderloin with green beans. Let's give it a taste. All right, let's dig in. It's got such a hard char on the outside. Okay. Here goes nothing. Wow. It's like Thanksgiving in your mouth all over again. That rosemary and the garlic, even though it made the outside kind of hard and it crusted it up pretty hard, it really comes through with the flavor. And all the green beans. Green beans, nothing special about the green beans. But still, it's a veggie. It's food. It's good. Let me just get one more bite of this pork. It is a little on the dry side. Probably because I'm paranoid about cooking it to temp, but it's all good. That combination of flavors and just a little hint of that creaminess of the cheese mixed in with the sweetness of and the soft but still yet a little firm apple. It's good. It's good. I'd cook it a little bit less. I don't know if it's the first time I'm really doing pork in the air fryer. Usually I do it in the oven, but it is a little bit dry. But the flavor is just going to override that. That's not bad for a first attempt. So I hope you try it. Let me know what you think. And if you have any thoughts or ideas on things you'd like me to make, just send me a message or post it down below, and I'll see what I can do. In the meantime, I'm going to shut the cameras off so I can start eating.